as I let people in here. So our speaker today is the wonderful Miss Alyssa Gross. And Alyssa is an attorney focusing on nonprofit and corporate law matters. In addition to her full-time practice, she is a director consultant for BNI in the Western New York region. Alyssa serves on the board of directors for Lockport Cares, the Teacher's Desk, and Kingdom Bound Ministries. She also serves as Cub Master for her Boys Scout Pack and is working on her black belt in Taekwondo. So thank you, Alyssa, for joining us today.
Thank you. I was camping with the Cub Scouts this weekend, so I'm still thawing, but we had a very good time. So I was going to talk today about finding your people. I've been practicing for 14 years, but only in private practice for the last 6. So I was in-house counsel at a nonprofit before I came into private practice, which meant that I entered private practice with no clients. So no clients and no book of business and no real plan on how I was going to get either one of those things. But one of the things I realized really early on was that I am not everyone's cup of tea, which I'm okay with. And so the first couple of years I was here, I really spent kind of taking anything that I felt like I could responsibly handle, but that was never going to be kind of my long-term goal. So my goal was always to get to a place where I could say no to certain things that I didn't want to do or certain people I didn't want to work with. And I think too many times in business, people don't get to that point. So they start off with that mindset that they're just going to take whatever work comes their way because that's what they have to do. You have to make an income, you have to keep your business going, but they don't ever come up with a transition plan on how we're going to go from that to really finding the people that you want to work with and you love to work with. So that was really what I spent a lot of time thinking about the first couple of years. And I think one of the ways that we do that is by refining our message. So as John mentioned, I am a director consultant for BNI. So BNI is a networking organization. And one of the things that they focus a lot of their education on is really refining your ask and being very specific. So if I were to tell you that I'm a business attorney, and if somebody says, you know, well, what do you do? What does that involve? Like, what kind of people do you work with? If I tell you I work with just anybody who owns a business, right? No one is popping into your head if I say that. If I carry on and tell you 15 different professions or industries that I work with, same thing. You're just kind of overwhelmed with information and you really don't have the ability to think about who you might know that I could potentially work with. It maybe would be a good referral for me or a good introduction for me. And I think, unfortunately, that's what a lot of us do, both in our just verbal conversations with people, but also in our marketing. We're just way too broad and we tend to be nervous that we're going to forget something. And so we end up just kind of verbally throwing up all over our audience all the time. It's like, well, I work with people in manufacturing and construction and some trades and licensed professionals. And I do a little bit of commercial real estate, and they just start listing everything off. But the problem is that is not going to trigger anything in the brain of the person that you're talking to or the person that is looking at your marketing materials. And so the more specific you can be, first of all, the happier you're going to be because you can really identify who exactly you want to work with. And then you can get really, really good at working with that particular audience. So I have chosen to work primarily with licensed professionals. That's really the fastest growing area of my practice. And by that, I mean specifically mental health counselors, licensed clinical social workers, anybody who has to set up a special type of entity in New York because they're a licensed professional. That's a super specific area. But because that's who I've been working with, I've gotten really good at not only understanding the legal side of what they do in their business, but also some of the other things. So licensing, some of the things that they come across in their practice and that kind of thing. And so instead of being pretty good at working with 15 different types of people, I've gotten really good at working with one type of people. They tend to refer a lot of people to me. So they talk to one another just like anybody in any other profession does. They all have professional associations or people that they went to school with or things like that. And so they've become a great referral source. But again, I've been able to refine that message and to communicate that to the clients that I'm working with so that more and more I'm getting only the type of clients and the type of work that I want. And that doesn't just stand for attorneys. It's really any kind of profession where you're dealing with a wide variety of people. if you stop and think about, your current book of business, your current client list, your current customer list, there are probably people on that list that you would love if you had 100 of them. And there's probably people on that list that if they quit working with you tomorrow, you would not cry about it. And so the goal long-term should be, let's get more of those people that we really love working with, and let's find a way to offload some of those people that we don't love working with. So that's kind of on the client or customer side, but I've done the same thing on the referral partner side. So I've been able to build a network of people, both people who supplement what I do and also people who do the exact same thing that I do, because I want to have somewhere to send that no business. So that stuff that comes into me that's just really not what I want. I've gotten to the point now where I have the ability to say no. I have enough coming in that I can stay busy, and I don't have to take everything that's referred to me or everything that comes to me anymore. But I never want my answer to be no. I want it to be, that's not the best fit for me, but here's someone who can help you with that. And so if you can cultivate a group of your competitors who do similar things to you, but not exactly the same thing, and you have different niche areas that you can kind of collaborate on, that gives you a really great sort of back door for that stuff that you don't necessarily want to have, the work that you don't necessarily want to be doing, or the clients or customers that aren't a great fit for you. Similarly, my referral partners, I've chosen very particularly, very specifically, they're people who work a lot like I do. So most of them are about my age, and they have a lot of the same mindset that I do about dealing with business owners. Lawyers in particular tend to kind of work like this. So we sort of focus on the one thing that we've been engaged for, and we don't think about literally anything else that goes along with a client or customer's business, which is not helpful for them. And so I've been able to find a group of referral partners who also think collaboratively. So when I'm talking to a new client, I can tell them that it's not just me, it's my whole team. So I have a team of like 5 or 6 guys that I do a ton of business with. And, I don't want to do your accounting. I don't want to do your bookkeeping. I really can't help you with insurance, but I have people that I connected with that are able to help with those things. And those, for the most part, are exclusive referral relationships. And that process was very similar to finding my ideal client or my ideal customer. So again, just being very specific when I'm meeting new people, when I'm networking, being very specific about who it is that I like working with, who it is that I don't love working with, and just doing my best to educate those people about where to send that work that I really don't want. So I have 1 or 2 business attorneys, one in particular who I pass a ton of business back and forth with. He and I basically do the same thing. We would describe our practices very similarly, but we both have a couple of things that we do that the other person just really isn't that interested in. And so we've been able to build that relationship. And we actually had a conversation last year where I said, I have 3 particular types of matters that I just don't want anymore. And so what I would like to do, if you have the margin to take them, is every single time I come across one of these 3 types of things, I want to send it to you. If that's something that you are both equipped to take on, but interested in taking on too. And it turned out that all 3 of those things are things that he really likes doing. And so all of that work now goes to him. Now, again, if you're in your first year of business, you're probably not doing this, so this isn't a realistic goal for your first year of business. You're probably in a place where you're really taking whatever comes in, right? Because you have to keep the lights on, you have to keep the bills paid. But again, I think thinking strategically about your first few years of business and picking a point where you can say, like, by this point, 4 years in, 5 years in, 7 years in, I want to be at the place where I can turn away business in favor of stuff that I really like. So if you have filled your funnel with, business that is not something that you're excited about, you don't wake up in the morning like, yes, I get to work on this today. What that means is that you may have something come along that would be business you're excited about, but you don't have the margin to take it. So there's sort of a balance there that's involved in figuring out, kind of at what point you can start doing that. I ended up picking sort of one area at first that I was just not going to take anymore. And I knew there was some risk associated with that, but I was just going to pick that one area. I bumped it up to 3 last year. And so that's kind of the one side of things, is deciding stuff that you don't want anymore. The other side is refining your messaging on the stuff that you really do want. So if you have, your ideal client or customer, you should know in your head what that person looks like. So have an avatar of your ideal client or customer. You know, what do they do for a living? How do they like to communicate? So my ideal client communicates via email because I hate talking on the phone. So my ideal client is emailing me whenever they need something. How old are they? You know, what kind of background do they come from? Who moves around in their circles that they could introduce you to? Do they have a particular mindset about working with somebody in your profession? So my ideal client is going to ask a lot of really good questions, but for the most part is going to do what I tell them to do, because it drives me crazy when I give clients advice and tell them to go do X, Y, and Z, and they go do something else, and then they come back and they're upset that things didn't go the way they were hoping they were going to go. So my ideal client is willing to take advice. My ideal client is not going to question every single bill that they get. You know, they're not going to ask me if I offer a discount. They're going to pay their bills on time, right? That sounds like a silly thing, but that's probably something that's really important to you. If you're working on a billing basis, that you have somebody that's going to see the value in the work that you do without you having to defend that value over and over and over again. And so again, if you don't know what your ideal client or customer looks like, people can't refer them to you because you don't have the ability to communicate that to other people. So I would definitely encourage you as you're working with people, whatever it is that you do over the next couple of weeks, think about what your current book of business looks like, and think about, you know, who is it that when your phone rings and the caller ID comes up and you see that it's that person, you think, oh, good, it's this person. You're quick to answer the phone. And on the flip side of that, who is it that you pray to God they don't call you today, because it's just going to wreck your day? And see if you can work towards getting more of the first kind of client or customer and less of the second kind of client or customer. Build those relationships on the flip side to try and refer those people out, you know, because not everybody is for everybody else, but you may be able to find a professional who really likes dealing with, you know, the kind of work that you don't like doing, or the kind of, you know, customers or clients or products, whatever it may be. This can apply in pretty much every area of your business. But the goal would be that you're waking up just about every morning excited to go to work. And the trick to doing that, I have found, is that you're working with people that you like to work with and you're doing things that you like doing. And part of the reason you go off on your own in the first place and own your own business is so that you can get to that point, right? So if you're consistently working with a bunch of people that you don't want to be working with or doing work you don't want to be doing, you may as well just go work for someone else, right? That was probably a big part of why you went out on your own in the first place. And so I think that's our end goal. And again, a lot of people don't ever get there. A lot of people are just taking in, you know, whatever work comes in, and they think more is better, and more of better is better. So make sure that you get to kind of that second step in your career and certainly in your business. And just be thinking about, you know, who is it that I really love working with them, and why do I love working with this type of client or this type of customer? So I think finding your people is super important, whether you're talking about the people you network with, the people that you're doing business with, the people that you're working with day to day in your business, you know, your vendors, your networking partners, everybody in your, you know, in your circle that you're dealing with on a regular basis. Make sure that you're finding your people. Otherwise, you're going to end up feeling like it's Monday morning every single day. Questions on that?
I have a question, Alyssa.
Okay.
Do you think about, or do you spend any time kind of investigating maybe new or novel areas or other types of clients you may want to work with? Either to, you know, to find other things you may enjoy doing, or, you know, if you have a downturn in business in one, you know, in one facet, that you're not, you know, left without a contingency plan.
Yeah, so like the way that I landed on licensed professionals, for example, was just that I had one come to me and they wanted to set up an entity. And as I was working on it, I realized that I really enjoyed the work. So it's something I'm constantly assessing, because I tend to be kind of general counsel for my business clients. I'm typically going like the whole life cycle of the business, and everybody is sort of in a different phase of their business. And so I will frequently come across something that's like, I haven't done specifically this before, but I can figure it out and I can handle it responsibly. And it turns out I really like doing it. And so that's something I'll think about soliciting more of. So it's definitely something I think about. Licensed professionals is the biggest one right now, but I have a number of other areas that I tend to do a lot of. And most of those I honestly just discovered by somebody asking me to do a particular, transaction or something for them. And I found that I really enjoyed it.
Just a quick comment. I like Monday mornings.
I mean, you can keep the Monday mornings after the daylight savings, but the rest of them are all right.
I like Monday mornings too, but I like Monday mornings because I have a job where I don't wake up every morning like not
Exactly.
wanting to go to work.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Molly.
All right, Alyssa, thank you for today. I had such great inspiration from that. And I was wondering, I'm a motivational speaker about distracted driving. And normally I say I talk to churches, schools, businesses, and nonprofits. Do you think I should narrow it down to just one of those? But then, like, not everybody is able to come up with people in that one area. So that's why I put a lot of different areas, just because I feel like more people will say they have contacts in those areas. I'm not sure what to do.
I think it still makes sense to go narrower, because if people want to help you and want to support you, they'll make that jump for you. So if I tell somebody I really like working with licensed professionals like mental health counselors, if they're looking to support me and to work with me, they'll say, well, what about this or what about that? People will typically make that leap for you. The specific ask or the specific message is to get them started. So I think if you tell people that you speak in schools, people will say, well, what about churches? Would you come to a church group? People will make that leap for you. So the narrower you can start, people will still go broad for you.
Awesome, thanks.
Great question, Molly. Other questions or comments?
Just quickly on that last point, the metaphor that really drove that home for me, it was basically like, if you think of a silly thing a person would do, not a lot's going to come to mind. But if you think of something silly that your kids or grandkids do, you're gonna instantly think of lots of examples of things. And I mean, it works the same way in business. Like, if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for an attorney, I mean, unless they're an attorney, they may just kind of look at you like, and they may have dealt with lots of attorneys. People deal with attorneys in various contexts, but then they just don't think of them. Whereas if you say, hey, I need an attorney for to negotiate a buy-sell agreement for my business, and somebody says, oh yeah, I'm an attorney and I do buy-sell agreements for business, like that, it's going to come to mind.
Yeah. Anything you can do to get a picture in somebody's head of what you're looking for. So if I say I want to work with people who have kids, it's like, I don't know, everyone has kids. That doesn't help me. But what about someone who had a baby at some point in the last 2 months? So they've been posting pictures of their new baby on Facebook, and like it looked like a potato at first, but now it's gotten to the point where it's like kind of getting cute, right? That immediately, like, everyone can think of somebody who had babies look like potatoes at first. I probably shouldn't have said that while this was recording, but they do.
Yeah, babies are terrible looking.
They look like a little potato that you have to feed, but they get cute within a couple of weeks. And so if you have a friend who's been posting pictures of their little potato baby, and now all of a sudden it's gotten cute, that baby is about 1 to 2 months old, immediately you can think of somebody that just had a baby. But if I say people with kids, like, I don't know, I know people with kids that are in their 40s. Is that what you're looking for? I know people that have kids that are in kindergarten. Is that what you're looking for? And chances are, in my mind, I already have a picture in my head of what I'm looking for. But if I'm not doing a good job describing it to you, you're going to be all over the place. And that's why we get super specific.
Excellent. Mike's got his potato baby.
I told you, I'm not everybody's cup of tea because I say stuff like that.
Go ahead, Diane.
Alyssa, I really liked your comment about the collaborative approach. I think, you know, we're in a maybe a different spot than a lot of other businesses if you're a retail or a store owner or something like that. But I think a lot of the coaches, the insurance people, even accountants, you can kind of relate to this, but it's important to know, like, I don't do everything. I do always ask my clients, what are your insurance needs and how are you doing? I'm setting up your LLC. You're going to need insurance. You need a banker. You need an accountant. So I like to try and farm those out to people in my circle too. And I know I can't do everything, but it's really important to know that you can't do everything and then have people around you who can you refer people to. That keeps them coming back to you, the client, but also your referral people are going to send people back to you. And it really just widens the whole net. So I like the comment that you made about everything should be collaborative.
Yeah, I posted a little picture collage of my people a couple weeks ago. So I have a guy for everything, and those are my guys that I use for everything. And I tell clients, like, if your banker needs something, if you work with my guy, he's not even going to bother you. He's going to come to me. He needs your Cert of Inc. He needs your EIN letter. He needs your bylaws. He knows I have them. So he's just going to bypass you and you can just carry on and conduct your business because we all work together. We talk every single day. So I think being able to sell people on that team approach is really helpful when I'm trying to get a new client to engage with me, because I'm not just selling them me, I'm selling them my whole team that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You've inspired me to think about where I've got a great network for referrals, but where I've got some gaps.
Yeah.
So this is helping me identify where I can fill those gaps and make sure that I've got all the areas covered. So I appreciate that, Alyssa.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for being here today and for sharing your wisdom. It's always great to see your face, and we really appreciate what you had to share today. I think we all got inspired and have some sparks of some things that we can work on, and also to appreciate where we do have those relationships set up based on this group and other groups that people are a part of. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.